Timon of Athens. Characters created. What happens when Dustin Britt, director and reshaper of William Shakespeare's Timon of Athens, gives 12 actors 36 roles, some of them named while others merely titled? Well, as one of Britt's 12 acting apostles, the first thing I did was choose the age and sex of my 3 characters, Painter, Sempronius, and Isadore's page. Age of character, gender, sexual orientation, and proclivity to party will be at least as important in Bear Theater's production of Timon as it was in Athens of 407 BCE, because our Timon has been rebooted and scooted to Club Athens in 1987 Common Era. War, revolt, betrayal, and social standing notwithstanding, this nearly 70-year-old man decided that Sempronius, a self-centered alpha male, alpha dog, social climbing lord, and golf pro, has a date of birth of April 18, 1942. Painter, D.O.B., June 25, 1950, becomes Susan Gregory Dunmire, a Southern Belle friend from my teens and early 20s who hailed from northern Alabama, and Isadore's page is a young man of 21. I frequently reference Surreal Susan in our circa 1987 phone conversation that began with my quite quickly spoken query greeting of, "Hi Susan, this is Keith, is Dan there?" Susan's response, and this is an actual quote of, slow down, you talk faster than I can think," and her magnolia sweet tea accent shall forever live in my mind. I gave Isadore's page the name Brock, last name christened but unrevealed, and a date of birth of August 6, 1965. Timon of Athens revolves around war and violence, and each of my characters' birthdays do as well. Sempronius' birthday coincides with the U.S. bombing of Tokyo in retaliation for Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. Japan's attack on Hawaii was devastating for the United States, while the U.S. Tokyo bombing was largely symbolic. However, the 5-man crews of Jimmy Doolittle's 16 B-225B bombers flew on what was considered a suicide mission, though most survived. My character Sempronius was born the day of the mission, and his father was one of the U.S. crew members who was murdered as a POW by the Japanese military. Following his father's death, Sempronius and his mother went to live with his paternal grandparents. The grandfather, born in 1895, was a harsh, misogynistic man who taught Sempronius through word and action that women were weak and to be used and discarded. Sempronius learned this lesson well. By the way, my Uncle Bill was a B-25B mechanic with the Army Air Corps and was taken prisoner by the Japanese after the fall of Manila. He was also murdered by his captors. I assigned Painter a DOB of 6/25/1950, the day that the Korean War erupted. The painter's father, like my own, joined the U.S. military and fought in the NATO-led Korean police action. Her father and my father both sustained life-threatening wounds while serving, and both were left scarred by their experience. Painter was born the day the Korean War began, and her father enlisted in the Army on 7/7/1950, leaving his baby daughter and very young bride, date of birth 1/30/1933, in North Alabama. As an infantryman, Painter's father was lucky to survive, and his battlefield experience left him deeply scarred for life. He was wounded on 7/26/1953, the day before the Korean armistice, and returned from the war a broken man. His now 20-year-old wife had helped provide for herself and her daughter by entertaining men, both vertically and horizontally, a lesson that Painter learned well. I cheated with Brock's date of birth of 8/6/1965. I wanted him to be early 20s and to tie his birth with U.S. military involvement in Vietnam. I hooked the August 1966 Gulf of Tonkin incidents to his bio, but couldn't help but bump his day of birth from August 4th to the 6th as a nod to the little boy hydrogen bomb dropped on Hiroshima 8/6/1945, a small sin of conflation. Brock was a gifted athlete at Stanford University, but had to drop out of school following some legal unpleasantness. Fortunately for him, his good friend and mentor, Aaron Persky, was able to find him a position as a page with Representative Isadore. Brock's future ruined by circumstances beyond his control, he spends much of his time benumbed with alcohol, LSD, ecstasy, and weed. He's doing the best he can in a world that is so unfair.